Hey, I'm Mayor Manny Sid, and welcome to our latest episode of 305 Vox Populi. We have a very special guest with us today. We have the mayor of North Miami Beach, Mayor DeFillipo, with us today, which is truly amazing. He's a great friend, and I really appreciate him joining us today. I also wanted to thank Miami Lakes Automall. They're powering this podcast. Miami Lakes Automall, our incredible production team. Actually, our food sponsor for today is Vicky Bakery, the Kale family. Shout out to the Kale family. We wanted to make sure we have pastelito, croqueta for the mayor. We had that here for you. A Miami Lakes welcome.
Thank
The
you.
the Kale family actually lives in Miami Lakes, actually a block away from Town Hall. So we really appreciate that. Shout out to them. And back to our production team, the great kids, not kids, young adults from Matter Lakes Academy, the Bears. They're the real deal. They have a great future, and I really appreciate all the hard work they put in. It would not be possible if it weren't for their hard work. So, Mayor DeFillipo, one thing that I really love about you, when we first met years ago, it was pretty cool. It was kind of like we just saw each other. It was like, hey, what's up? What's going on? You're in North Miami Beach, Miami Lakes, and we started that relationship way back then. And I always appreciated how approachable of an elected official you were. And I think all the years going forward, I ran for mayor, you ran for mayor.
Yeah.
Now we're both in positions of leadership. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for accepting and welcome to Miami
Thank you
Lakes.
very much. I would say good morning, but I think we're on the cusp of the afternoon. So good afternoon to you, to your listeners, and to everybody out there. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here in your city this afternoon.
No, thank you, Mayor. And I love North Miami Beach. I love going to Olita River State
Olita
Park.
River State Park, yeah.
Man, as a kid, my mom would take me there all the time. So we were always in North Miami Beach. Not too long ago, I took my kids to kayak there. So that is like a gem
Isn't
in
it
the middle.
pleasant?
It is truly amazing. So that is a gem. But you guys have a lot going on. But we wanted to kind of talk about, before we get to what's happening today in North Miami Beach, kind of talk about you. As a young adult, what kind of drove you to get into this arena, to politics? Talk to us a little bit about that history.
Well, there's a lot of history behind it. My family, since the 1950s, my grandfather was always involved in North Miami Beach politics. And as life went on, he passed away. My father was also involved in the city of North Miami politics. He was a councilman for 13 years, and as a young teenager and growing up to be a young man, I saw the great things that he did for the community relations, dealing with people in the community, and doing positive things, festivals, good stuff, working together with the police department, and it kind of arose my curiosity and my intellect, and really, you know, um, after I had a computer store in the city for over 20 years, and dealing with the constituents of the community. I said, well, my father's, turned me out. He's finishing up. Why shouldn't I, follow in those footsteps and maybe take a leap at it and see if I get the support. And so, lo and behold, in 2013, I ran for city commissioner. I won in a runoff race. I had over five people in my race, which was pretty challenging, and to say the very least. And I did my term, and I ran again in 2018, filling a vacancy for 2 years, and I won that seat as well, um, without having to go into a runoff. And now in 2020, I did it again with over 70% of the vote. Didn't have to go to a runoff. So I think that the people of the community understand the devotion, the dedication, not only that my family has had over the decades, but that I bring to the table, and the love and care that I have for my community. And I'm very blessed to have that support.
That's phenomenal. Since the 50s, the DeFillipo family has been involved
That's right.
in civic life in North Miami Beach. That's something that you all should be very proud of. That active citizenship is so vital in our society, and you guys are an example of that in North Miami Beach. But also being a small business owner and bringing that perspective, that grind, right? Because when you own a small business, the grind that you go through and that
Oh yeah.
perspective is so unique in public office. We need more folks like you, small business owners, to run for office because it's a completely different perspective.
Well, you
Um,
kind of understand. You understand the need a little bit better, not only of the constituents, but of the businesses, the local businesses, the policing, the funding. You know, the projects that they need in order to get people into their doors. So it's very interesting. You are an entrepreneur yourself and have a business, so you know what it feels like, to be in the business arena, and it brings a lot to the table to really understand what your community is all about, and the businesses. And I have a good relationship with the businesses in the community because of the 20 years plus that I was in that little arena with them, dealing with situations, and both positive and negative.
And you know what's interesting? Making the leap from a commissioner, a council member to mayor is a big leap. It happened to me here in the town of Miami Lakes. I had a decision to make. I could have ran for council. You kind of don't have the spotlight. Not everybody knows who you are.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like when you're mayor, that spotlight is on top of you every single day and you have to deliver. I was talking to some folks yesterday. I'll give you an example. We had the Speaker of the House he still lives about a block away from City Hall. And we would always joke because if we walk into Publix together, although he's the third most powerful guy in Florida, he was for the last 2 years, and I would walk in, nobody would recognize him, but everybody would be talking to me, trying to, Mayor, I need your help with this, Mayor, I need your help with that. So the position of mayor is very interesting. So what kind of changed that perspective for you and said, you know what, I got to grab the bull by the horns. I want to be the leader of the city. I think it's time to move forward. What triggered that decision?
Well, first and foremost, the opportunity was there, but more than anything, the residents of the community needed stability in the city of North Miami Beach. And many of the residents came to me and said, you know, you're a man of integrity. You've given so much back to this community. You've served on so many boards, which I did, prior to becoming a commissioner. I didn't just go in there and get voted in. I served on many boards for many years. So I really had a knowledge of the foundation that it took to be in a position of this caliber. And I understood the diversity of our city, and the great diversity, and so to be able to understand that and work with that and cater to all the different ethnicities of our community was a great thing. So because I was so well embraced, and because so many people, really, chanted me on and said, "Go, do it, we'll support you." Because I had that support, I felt very confident going in uh, as running as mayor and going in and running for the seat, that I had a great chance. And I actually, gave up my seat as a commission, which I could have lost, like when we ran. But the people spoke. I had that reassurance, and I moved forward with my confidence and with my faith, and with always with the blessings from above, knowing that I was doing the right thing.
Absolutely, and it's always important to keep God, right, number one
Amen.
in our
Amen.
lives. So we're gonna pivot right now to COVID, right? So one going back to being mayors and being local elected officials. For example, in Congress, although they did a good job with the PPP, right? They've been fighting back and forth, right? Republicans say this about Democrats on COVID, Democrats say this about Republicans, and they really don't have to deliver because they're always fighting back and forth. But on the local level, when it came to COVID, the pandemic, we had to deliver. People looked for us, and that's where folks look for the local elected officials to kind of move the ball forward and help. What kind of initiatives did you spearhead? Did the city spearhead during the pandemic, during COVID? What was your role? What are your thoughts? This last year, I can't believe it's about to be a year
A
since
year.
the pandemic started. I mean, it's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
the Super Bowl marked kind of the mark of the year. Mayor, as well as I do, because you attended these meetings as well. I really got at the front of this COVID and CARES Act funding, to make sure that not only my city, but all the cities in Dade County got the appropriation funding that we needed from the county, and you know how much all of us fought for that, and being a voice on the front lines is a very difficult thing to do, and I really chose to do that along with other mayors, and fighting for that those CARES Act dollars that we would get in our local cities so that we can help these businesses and residents. So it was very important to me, and I took it near and dear to make sure that I was at every meeting, at every press conference, whatever I could do to make sure that the representation was there, and that we got those funds appropriated correctly. And at the end of the day, through the League of Cities, all of us together formed a coalition, and we were able to do that. It was not easy, as you know. You were part of that, but we did it. But just understanding the need that local businesses had and have, and the residents for the subsidies that they need, was so important to making sure that we didn't lose these businesses in our community and have vacancies throughout our city and for lease signs everywhere. It was so important that we supported and the economic vitality and the economic development and growth of our city, and to make sure we didn't lose that. So, till today, we continue to um, go and fight to make sure that we get these funds. We know that they're very hard to get. They've run out for certain cities. So we continue to try and do our best through other means to see how we can help cities. But what we're doing for our residents, which is very important, is we continue to have local food drives. We understand the need. We see the need, and thanks to all the sponsors that really have stepped up to the plate. Now more than ever, I'm thankful to Feeding South Florida and to all the others that helped us start it. But that was taken away from us by the county. The county took over those programs. So, they were doing it with local cities, and then the city was left with, well, now go find your own sponsors, because, we have unincorporated areas in our city in Dade County. So, we needed to help more people in our city. We were able to get other sponsors to step up, and, every Friday now we're having local food drives, feeding about 1,600 families. That's the amount of boxes we passed out in the past 2 or 3 drives. And it's not just vegetables. We give out gallons of milk, yogurt, chicken, hot dogs, cheese, onions, oranges, an abundance of nourishments that help out families. And that's, I feel it's a much gratitude. I'm very humbled to be able to help our residents and give back and find another solution to help them.
No, that's fantastic, Mayor. And I know it was frustrating for the both of us when we saw that the county got all this money and held it since April, and then they would force us to apply, and then they made these decisions, and then now they had a deadline in December, and they were trying to run and trying to do all these So it was extremely frustrating. The reality is, our cities could have done a lot better job at distributing these funds for whatever program that they were than the county. That is a fact, and
Yes.
I think it's really important to point that out. The one thing I really wanted to mention also, which I love North Miami Beach's diversity. You touched upon it earlier, and I think that is very unique. That is awesome when you have such a culturally diverse community. I'm looking at just some of the stats. You have one of the largest Haitian populations in the United States, one of per capita, a large Cuban population, Dominican, Bahamian, Jamaican, Peruvian, Jewish American. I mean, you name it, across the board. And I think that's the fabric of your city. So how do you work with all the different groups? How do you bring them to the table? Because I think it's so important to have those conversations. I know you've been having them because I see it on your social media. But how do you bring people together? Because I think we're living in a very polarized time where sometimes folks don't want to talk. But how do you do it? How do you tell everybody, hey, let's all come together? Because I'm sure you got to get elected. So it shows, and you got elected by a very wide margin, right?
Yes, absolutely, over 70%. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. So you have a huge mandate, but you brought everybody together. How did you do that? Talk to us about bringing together that diversity.
Well, I'll start by saying it's not easy, but I'll start by saying you I understand, with the years and being a product, and having been, my parents that have been all their lives in North Miami Beach. I grew up in North Miami Beach. I and understanding, like you said, it's really the tight knit fabric that we have in our city. Understanding the culture, the diversity, and being able to cater to all of these different cultures, without having a tug of war. So, we do recognize, all different occasions in the past holiday season. We recognize Christmas, we recognize Hanukkah, we do events for these different occasions. We recognize Kwanzaa, we recognize, Black History Month, we recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. We recognize the month of the Holocaust survivors, and Haitian Heritage Month, and when it's hard to get them all, but the Chinese New Year, we have a very strong Asian population in our community. We have a small Chinatown. We have about 7 or 8 shuls in our city, synagogues. So when you understand the diversity that you have and who you need to cater to and support, and we've been able to do that, it really makes for a great city. And as the mayor and the leader of the city, working together with some of my commissioners, we've been able, and the great city manager that we have, Manager Esmond Scott, we've been able to have these programs and these events that are all inclusive, so that everybody is involved and nobody feels left out. And that's very hard to do because we all have budgets to work on. So, but if we just could take a little chunk, and separate it so that we can have events, for all the different cultures in our community, and embrace everybody and give them all the respect, that they deserve. That's really what makes us, the diverse community we are. I would say the potpourri, that we are. All together in one little jar, and truly all getting along. And so that our city is very grateful for. I mean, you could be of any background, and come to our city. I mean, one of your sponsors, Cal Bakery, Vicky Bakery, came to our city, and it was actually one of the, if not the first, Latin restaurant that came to our city. And I was speaking with Tony. He says, I don't know if we're gonna make it here. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I told him, listen, I guarantee you it's gonna happen. If not, I'll pay your first month's rent. and
That's a tremendous guarantee. Wow.
And lo and behold, after being open for 1 month, the doors didn't stop. After 3 months, it became their number one store, to the point where they had to be open 24 hours a day. Now, we weren't in COVID at that time, but now they shut down in normal hours. But 24 hours, I mean, can you imagine how many people have to come into an establishment for an establishment to want to say, I have to be open for 24 hours? And they did, and they are. And it just goes to show how many Latins, the culture, how many people, and it's not just Latins, it's every ethnicity just goes in there and loves the taste of the Latin cuisine, just like, Haitian cuisine and all the others that we have. But that's a testament of really bringing in a business that has really made an impact in our city.
Yeah, you can't beat. I love it, pastelito de coco, and that they have, and café con leche. So no, that's fantastic, and it's a testament to you to bring people together. And I think that's the role of mayors, is that we don't wear partisanship on our sleeves.
That's
We
right.
kind of our role is to bring people together, you know. So great
And you
job.
hit on something that's very important, and people need to understand that is that are city elections and cities are nonpartisan. We are nonpartisan for the people. Okay, the decisions are very important that we make, but the decisions that we make are not made on partisanship. They're made on decisions on what's best for the people. And I think if people start taking that message for real and understand the positions that you and I are in every day, and that we're there for the greater good of all the people, I think it's going to be a better place for all of us to live. You know what's going on in Tallahassee and in Washington, that goes on in Tallahassee and in Washington. That doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen at local levels because we're here to serve all the people.
No, you hit it on the head. We got to deliver every single day. So I wanted to talk about some of the challenges, right? Because although I'll give you an example here, Miami Lakes are doing well. We ran some numbers not too long ago. Our approval ratings were at 85% that the city's moving in the right direction. But the reality is we can always get better.
Hmm.
So, for example, I'm dealing with some infrastructure issues that I'm having. We had a discussion last night. There isn't enough funding to fix all of our infrastructure. I think our needs were like at $20 million. So we're trying to work through that. I have issues with rock mining blasting. That's really important to my residents. We're dealing with some bridge issues as well. So although we're heading in the right direction, I know we can get better because I'm still dealing with some things that impact the quality of life of our residents. So what are some of the things that challenges that you have in North Miami Beach, and some of the ideas you have to get past it? I mean, give us some of those thoughts. And I
Well,
wanted to share some of that because although we know the same way that you got elected with a wide margin, we can always get better. And I think that's what life's all about, is continuing to improve.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Even though we're not too far apart, maybe 6 miles away from each other, but we kind of share some of the same issues that we're facing. We're a 94-year-old city. We have tremendous infrastructure issues that we got to deal with, like underground piping that it's already corroded. And while we were doing 3 miles every year, now we have to increase that, so that's a huge number in our budget that we have to start looking at and seeing how we're going to deal with. That's not a little bite at the apple. That's a big bite at the apple. You know that. And that's really one of the biggest challenges we're facing. We're facing the fact that a lot of our city is 2/3 of our city is on septic, not on sewer. Okay, we know now more than ever how much the impact is on the ecosystem, and being a city that is on partially on the coastline, that does affect the waters in the area. So and the runoff. So it's very important that we address those issues because we are a city that is on the coastline, and so whatever is in the ground and saturating out of the ground is going to go into the ecosystem and is going to affect the quality of water and the underground beneath us. And so sewers, and I'm glad to hear that, our mayor, the Miami-Dade Mayor, Levine Calva, I'm hearing much talk about this legislation in Tallahassee that they're speaking about that's going to start addressing this issue because we're not the only city. There's many, but this is something that's really affecting, our ecosystem and the quality of life. So we want to, just like work on infrastructure improvements and other things that we're facing on down the road of that caliber.
Yeah, that's always there's not enough money to go around, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we deal with every day. Just yesterday, we had a discussion where we don't even have enough funds this fiscal year to replace some of our speed humps that we have around town because
Oh,
some were broken and stuff. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. Our aging infrastructure has been forgotten for a long time. I mean, it should have. I'll give you an example. Way back when, we should have created maybe what we're trying to do now is sinking funds and try to put money away for the maintenance. But yeah, it's something we got to catch up with, and I think you're doing the right thing, not passing the buck to future generations and leaving the city off in better hands, right? So
Yeah, and we fought hard at just, you're talking about examples, and I'll keep it brief. But one of the best examples is, we fought hard 2 years ago in Tallahassee to get appropriations funding for piping for our water, because we supply water to Hard Rock Stadium, and the main pipe that went to Hard Rock Stadium was already at the point of its lifespan was gone, and at any given time that could collapse, and the Super Bowl was around the corner, and so we, at that period there was no money in Tallahassee that was being given out for water projects, but we were the only city at that time, the one and only city that got appropriations for water, because we fought, we got our lobbyists, we got everybody that we needed to make sure that this was addressed, so that in the middle of that Super Bowl there wouldn't be a pipe burst or loss of flow in water. So taking responsibility and realizing how to deal with that was very hard, but we did it. So
no, that's a fascinating story. I didn't know. I'd heard that North Miami Beach provided water to several municipalities, but I didn't know directly to Hard Rock Stadium. That is that is fascinating. And you're right. One of the things that I think living in Dade County that we all kind of take for granted. We just turn on the water. We know that it's coming out clean. It's safe. We put our garbage out. But there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to make sure that continues to happen, right? So we've seen what's happened around the nation. There are cities around the nation where you turn on the water, and you can't drink it, you can't bathe. But there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes here to make sure so that continues to happen. So I really appreciate you sharing that story, because it's I had no idea that you guys provide the water to Hard Rock Stadium. That is definitely fascinating.
Challenging, but we accomplished it. Challenging, but we accomplished it.
Yeah, it's a little tidbit behind the scenes, and I'm sure a lot of the folks that watch this podcast will really enjoy. We have about 3 minutes left in our podcast today. Any questions that you had for me? And we always ask everybody that comes on, kind of turn it around, see if you had anything for me.
Well, I know that you've been working very hard in this city to address the traffic issues, and I know that I think you opened up, there was a new causeway or a new avenue. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I also learned from hearing from my fellow colleagues. So tell me a little bit about what you've done to ease the traffic up, and I know that's a major hot topic here in Miami Lakes.
So one new road that we're building is Northwest 59th Avenue, and it's a pretty interesting story. So it started because we don't allow boats and RVs here in the town of Miami Lakes. Our code's been like that forever. There's actually deed restrictions in certain areas of the town. So I said, hey, why don't we build an area in town where we could find a third-party provider to have a RV and boat storage, right? Let residents, at least, if they can't park it in their homes, at least have an area for them. City of Hollywood, a couple other cities do that, and to me, it was a no-brainer. The area that we picked at first, there were some homes around it. So when we first started having the discussions, there was one neighbor that led that was not happy with me, and kind of led all his neighbors to protest. They weren't happy with the situation. So I said, hey, let's find an alternative. Funny enough, the neighbor that led that fight, that passion that neighbor had, today is our city manager. So yeah, how things end up happening in life. So when we found the other property, it was an aviation property we have on the other side of town, and that's when we started saying, hey, you know what? We can connect the northeast part of our community that's not connected to the town. You literally got to go outside to come back in. It's where Miami Lakes Auto Mall is at, Costco, Caterpillar, the top magnet school in the nation. And it's not connected to our community. So we said, hey, let's build the road. So we started calling FDOT, the aviation department. We put everything together. We actually have to go through an eminent domain process. We're going through environmentals. But the ball's moving forward. We have the money. And that's how, it's interesting how things happen. We see a problem as mayors, as local elected officials, and we push a solution. So to me, that's one of the most proudest projects that I'm proudest of, because it's one that started by an idea, and now it's led to this discussion where it's going to happen.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's going to connect an entire business sector.
We have the same issue in our city. You can't have boats or RVs or anything in front of the house. So you're kind of giving me something to run with here.
Yeah, I listen. I'm a big believer in not saying. There's a lot of times where you have to say no, but if you could say no and say, hey, you can't do this, but the law or a code allows this. So I know we're wrapping up right now. Thank you, Mayor, for participating. I
Thank you.
think the discussion, the folks are gonna tune in and really enjoy it. So I thank you very much.
I hope to be able to share it with you again. I know you got great things you're doing here too. So congratulations to you too, Manny Sid, Mayor, for doing a great job you're doing in Miami Lakes.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday at the same time. Tune in on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you then.